I never imagined I'd be writing this kind of post. Looking back, maybe I should have seen the signs sooner, but love makes you blind sometimes. Here's my story. I, 27F, met Jake, 25M, 2 years ago at my friend Sarah's backyard barbecue. Sarah works with me at Memorial Hospital where I'm a pediatric nurse. Jake caught my attention right away. He wasn't like the loud, party-focused guys there. He stayed on the quieter side, helping Sarah's husband with the grill and playing with the kids. My daughter Emma, who was 4 at the time, practically claimed him as her personal jungle gym. Jake worked in IT security and had a 4-year-old son, Tyler, from his previous relationship. We bonded over single parenthood struggles and our shared love of true crime documentaries. Our first date was actually watching Netflix with our kids having a playdate. It felt perfect, natural. The first year was amazing. Jake was attentive, thoughtful, and so good with Emma. He'd bring her little gifts, help her with homework, and never tried to replace her dad's role in her life. My ex Mark and I share custody of Emma, and Jake respected those boundaries completely. Or so I thought. We decided not to move in together because we wanted to take things slow for the kids. Jake lived about 20 minutes away with Tyler, who we saw on weekends when Jake had custody. Everything seemed healthy and balanced. Working as a nurse means long shifts, night rotations, and unpredictable schedules. To decompress, I started going out with my co-workers once or twice a month. Nothing wild, usually dinner at Applebee's, maybe some karaoke at O'Malley's, the local pub. Jake was always invited but usually declined, saying he needed to be up early or had Tyler that night. The first red flag appeared about 6 months ago. I was out with Sarah and some other nurses after a particularly rough shift. One of our newer nurses, Lisa, had too much to drink. Being the senior nurse, I felt responsible for getting her home safely. By the time I dropped her off and got home, it was 2 a.m. instead of my usual midnight. Jake was sitting in his car outside my house. He'd been there for hours, calling and texting nonstop. When I walked up, he erupted. He accused me of cheating, said he knew I was with some doctor, called me a liar when I tried explaining about Lisa. I showed him the text from Lisa thanking me for the ride home, but he said I probably had a friend send fake messages. After that night, Jake's behavior changed drastically. If I was at work, he'd text constantly asking which doctors were on duty. He started surprising me with lunch visits to the pediatric ward, supposedly to be romantic, but really to check who I was working with. He'd question the male nurses and even some of the parents of my patients. During my nights out, he'd demand photos every 30 minutes to prove where I was. If I didn't respond quickly enough, he'd start calling everyone he knew who might know my whereabouts. One time, he actually called my ex-husband at midnight asking if he knew where I was. Things got really weird when he started following me without my knowledge. I only discovered this when I arrived at Applebee's one night and he confronted me in the parking lot. He'd been tailing my car for 20 minutes, convinced I was meeting a secret boyfriend. My co-workers watched in horror as he screamed at me, calling me horrible names. The restaurant manager had to threaten to call the police before Jake finally left. His controlling behavior extended beyond my social life. He started commenting on my scrubs, saying they were too revealing. He'd get angry if male patients' fathers talked to me too long. He even complained about me taking my male patients to the bathroom, saying it was inappropriate. I had to explain multiple times that it's literally part of my job as a pediatric nurse. The situation with Emma started worrying me too. Jake began questioning her about my activities when I wasn't around. He'd ask if any men visited the house, what time I got home from work, if mommy had any special friends. Emma didn't understand why these questions were wrong. She thought Jake was just being interested in our lives. Last week was my breaking point. I was working the night shift in pediatrics when Jake somehow got past hospital security at 3 a.m. He burst into the ward while I was checking on a sleeping patient, screaming about me sleeping with doctors. He was so out of control that my supervisor had to call security. Parents were woken up, kids were crying, and I nearly got written up for causing a disturbance. When I confronted him the next day, he broke down crying. He told me his ex had cheated on him throughout their relationship with multiple men. He said he found out when Tyler was born that the baby might not even be his, but he never got a paternity test because he was too scared of the truth. He begged me to understand that his behavior came from trauma, that he couldn't bear losing another person he loved to cheating. I felt terrible for him. What he went through with his ex sounded awful. But his behavior was affecting every aspect of my life. My coworkers were walking on eggshells around me. My friends had stopped inviting me out. Emma was learning unhealthy relationship patterns. Even my ex-husband expressed concern about Jake's influence on our daughter. When I suggested he get help for his trust issues, he completely lost it. He accused me of calling him crazy and manipulative. Then came the ultimatum: Either I quit working night shifts and stopped going out with friends, or our relationship was over. Now I'm torn. I care about Jake, and Emma adores him and Tyler. Breaking up means hurting both kids. But I can't live like this anymore, constantly defending my every move, afraid to check my phone, watching my daughter learn that this kind of controlling behavior is normal in relationships. My friends say I need to end it before his behavior escalates further. My gut tells me they're right, but my heart aches for the man I fell in love with, the one who seemed so perfect in the beginning. Have I been making excuses for toxic behavior? Should I try to help him heal from his past trauma? Has anyone dealt with something similar? I'll post updates as things develop. Right now, I just need perspective from people who might understand what I'm going through. Update 1. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. You all helped me see things clearly. A lot has happened in these 2 weeks, and I need to share it because things got much worse than I imagined. After reading the comments, I decided to stand firm about my job and friendships. I met Jake at a local coffee shop to avoid any scenes. I told him I wouldn't quit my job or stop seeing my friends, but offered to work on trust issues together. He surprised me by staying calm. He apologized for the hospital incident and promised to do better. I actually felt hopeful. That hope lasted exactly 3 days. I was helping Emma with homework when she casually mentioned playing a game on her new iPad. This confused me because Emma didn't have an iPad. When I asked where she got it, she said Jake gave it to her last week after school. She said he often picked her up and took her for ice cream or to the park. My blood ran cold. I never authorized Jake to pick up Emma. I called the school immediately. They confirmed Jake had been picking up Emma several times over the past month, saying he was my boyfriend and authorized to get her. He'd even added himself to her emergency contact list by forging my signature. When I asked Emma about these trips, she revealed Jake made her keep them secret. He told her it was their special time together, and Mommy wouldn't understand. He'd been buying her toys and treats, all with the condition that she not tell me. He'd ask her questions about who visited our house, if any men came over, what time I got home from work. I checked the iPad and found the tracking app installed. He wasn't just tracking Emma's location, he was tracking mine since she was usually with me. The iPad's photo stream showed pictures I didn't know existed, photos of me at work, at stores, at friends' houses. Jake had been following us and taking pictures for weeks. It got worse. The school principal called me the next day. Teachers reported a blue Honda frequently parked outside during recess. A male driver would watch the playground through binoculars. They'd noted the license plate, it was Jake's car. He'd been stalking my 6-year-old daughter at school. I immediately blocked Jake on everything and sent him a text saying we were done. Within hours, emails started flooding in from different addresses. Notes appeared on my car. He'd show up at my house at 3 a.m., just sitting in his car watching my windows. I had to explain to Emma why Jake and Tyler couldn't be in our lives anymore. She cried for hours. Then came the call that changed everything. A woman named Rachel called me, identifying herself as Jake's ex, Tyler's mom. She found my number in Jake's phone while he was sleeping. She wasn't calling to cause trouble, she wanted to warn me. The story Jake told about her cheating was completely false. She left him because of his obsessive controlling behavior and stalking. The paternity question was a lie too. They did get a test, Tyler was definitely his son. But Jake kept using this story to manipulate new girlfriends, playing the victim of a cheating ex. Rachel told me horrifying stories. Jake had installed hidden cameras throughout their house. He put tracking devices in her car and phone. He hired private investigators to follow her to work and track her shopping trips. His obsession got so bad he lost his IT security job because he spent more time monitoring her than working. The final straw for Rachel came when she discovered Jake had been manipulating Tyler, then 3, into spying on her. He'd asked Tyler about Mommy's friends, if any men visited, what time she got home. Just like he did with Emma. Rachel got a restraining order, which Jake violated multiple times. She had to move 3 times to escape him. I spent the next few days in a panic. I documented everything and filed for a restraining order. I called Emma's school and removed Jake from all contact lists, showing them photos so security would know to keep him away. I changed our locks, installed security cameras, and informed my apartment complex about the situation. Yesterday, my ex-husband Mark called me. Jake had contacted him with evidence that I was an unfit mother. He sent Mark doctored photos suggesting I brought men home while Emma was there, fake texts about me drinking heavily, and made up stories about me leaving Emma alone at night. He urged Mark to file for full custody. Thankfully, Mark and I have maintained a good co-parenting relationship. He saw through Jake's manipulation immediately and forwarded me all the messages. We're documenting everything for the restraining order case. The scariest part? Rachel wasn't Jake's first victim. She knew of at least 2 other women before her who experienced the same pattern. Jake would date single moms, charm them and their kids, then slowly isolate them through manipulation and fear. When they tried to leave, he'd threaten their custody of their children. Emma's in therapy now. The therapist says she's confused and hurt, especially about Tyler. She doesn't understand why she can't see her friend anymore. She's also struggling with guilt about keeping Jake's secrets, even though we've explained that none of this is her fault. I feel like such an idiot for not seeing the signs earlier. Everyone who commented about red flags was right. I'm sharing this update because I want other single parents to know that someone using your kids to spy on you is never okay. Trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags like I did. I'll update again if anything major happens. Right now, I'm focused on protecting Emma and getting that restraining order. The police are finally taking this seriously after seeing the evidence and hearing from his other victims. Update 2: The situation has gotten worse in ways I never imagined possible. What I discovered in the past few weeks has left me questioning everything about the past 2 years. Remember how I mentioned Jake contacted my daughter's father? That was just the tip of the iceberg. The police investigation revealed Jake had been building an extensive case against me for months. He had folders on his laptop filled with photos of me at work, screenshots of my social media, and detailed logs of my daily activities. He'd edited some photos to make it look like I was getting too close to male co-workers or drinking at work. Sarah, my closest friend at work, finally broke down and told me everything last week. Jake had created a group chat with most of my co-workers months ago. He posed as a concerned boyfriend worried about my drinking problem and inappropriate behavior with male staff and patients' fathers. He sent them edited screenshots of texts where I supposedly admitted to sleeping with doctors. He even created fake email addresses pretending to be concerned patients' parents complaining about my behavior. The hospital incident from my previous post? That wasn't a spontaneous outburst. Jake had been planning it for weeks. He befriended Mike, one of our security guards, telling him he was planning to propose to me during my night shift. He showed Mike a ring and everything, said he wanted to make it special since I loved my job so much. Mike, thinking he was helping with a romantic surprise, let Jake in that night. Mike lost his job because of this. He came to apologize to me yesterday, showing me all the messages where Jake manipulated him. Things at work got really bad. My supervisor called me in for a meeting. Jake had been sending anonymous emails to hospital administration for months. He claimed I was stealing medications from the pediatric ward and drinking during shifts. He sent them edited photos of me looking disoriented at work. I was actually just exhausted from double shifts, and fake witness statements from non-existent staff members. The hospital had to do a full investigation. They checked security footage, counted medications, interviewed my coworkers. I was cleared of all accusations, but some people still look at me differently. There are whispers in the break room. Some parents have requested different nurses for their kids. Then I discovered this wasn't his first time doing this. Through the police investigation, I learned about his pattern. Before me, there was Rachel, his son's mom. Before her, there was Amanda, a kindergarten teacher. Before Amanda, there was Kelly, a daycare worker. All single moms. All worked with kids. All had their careers nearly destroyed by Jake's accusations. Amanda had to leave her teaching job because Jake spread rumors that she was inappropriate with male students. Kelly's daycare shut down after Jake sent anonymous tips to state inspectors about alleged negligence. Rachel nearly lost her nursing license when Jake accused her of stealing drugs, just like he did with me. The police found notebooks in his apartment detailing his investigations of all of us. He had surveillance photos, work schedules, lists of co-workers he could manipulate, planned accusations for each victim. It was all calculated, methodical. The most disturbing part? He kept trophies from each relationship, photos, personal items, even copies of the complaints that ruined his victims' careers. The detective said it wasn't just about control. Jake got satisfaction from systematically destroying women's lives. My coworkers are finally seeing the truth. The hospital administration found evidence that Jake had hacked into our email system, probably using his IT skills. He'd been intercepting and editing messages between staff members for months, creating conflicts and suspicion. I'm pressing criminal charges. The police are taking it seriously now that they've connected him to multiple victims. They're building a case for stalking, harassment, cybercrimes, and falsifying evidence. The hardest part is facing my coworkers. Some have apologized for believing Jake's lies. Others still seem unsure, like maybe some of his accusations were true. My reputation, which I spent years building, has been damaged. Even with proof of Jake's manipulation, you can't completely erase people's doubts. I'll post a final update soon. The police say they found even more evidence, and other victims are coming forward. I just hope sharing my story helps someone else recognize these patterns before it's too late. Final update: after months of living in fear, there's finally some resolution, though not the kind anyone expected. The truth about Jake turned out to be far worse than any of us imagined. Jake was arrested last week, but not because of my case. The police investigation uncovered a pattern of stalking multiple women simultaneously. While he was dating me, he had ongoing relationships with 3 other single mothers in nearby cities. Each of us thought we were in an exclusive relationship. Each of us went through the same nightmare: the fake cheating ex story, using our kids to spy, the isolation tactics, the workplace harassment. During the raid on his apartment, police found dozens of notebooks documenting our daily routines. He had detailed schedules of our work shifts, our kids' school times, even when we did laundry or went grocery shopping. They found folders of manipulated photos, stolen work badges from various hospitals and schools, and recordings of phone conversations he'd secretly taped. The most disturbing discovery was in my house. Remember all those times Jake offered to help with home repairs? He installed hidden cameras throughout my home, in the living room, kitchen, even my bedroom. The police found 7 cameras total. The thought of him watching me and Emma for months makes me physically sick. I had to throw out my bedroom furniture because I couldn't stop thinking about being watched. The truth about Tyler broke my heart. Jake's ex revealed that he hasn't actually seen his son in over a year. All those weekend visits he claimed to have? Lies. The photos he showed us of him and Tyler at the park or playing baseball? Old pictures from when Tyler was younger. He used his son's existence to appear more trustworthy to single moms. My workplace situation is slowly improving. After Jake's arrest made the news, the hospital administration issued a formal apology. They're implementing new security measures to prevent similar situations. Most of my coworkers have apologized, especially after learning about his other victims. Mike, the security guard who lost his job, was offered his position back with back pay. The legal case against Jake is massive. He's facing multiple charges of stalking, harassment, illegal surveillance, cybercrime, and fraud. His lawyer tried to make a deal. He'd leave all his victims alone if we dropped charges. None of us agreed. The prosecutor says with the evidence they have, Jake's looking at significant prison time. Emma and I are moving next week. I can't stay in a house where we were secretly watched. She's still in counseling, learning about appropriate boundaries and trust. Sometimes she asks about Tyler, and it breaks my heart to explain that their friendship was built on Jake's lies. The other victims and I have formed a support group. There's something healing about connecting with women who understand exactly what you went through. One of them, a psychologist, said Jake shows classic signs of being a predatory narcissist who specifically targets single mothers because we're more vulnerable and our kids give him extra leverage for control. I've learned hard lessons about trust and red flags. When someone uses your kids to spy on you, when they try to isolate you from friends and family, when they show up uninvited to your workplace, these aren't signs of love or concern. They're signs of dangerous obsession. For now, I'm focusing on healing. No dating for at least a year. Emma and I are rebuilding our life, making new memories in our new home. My friends have been amazing, helping with the move and making sure we're never alone if we don't want to be. Some wounds take time to heal. Right now, that's exactly what Emma and I are giving ourselves: time. Time to feel safe again, time to trust again, time to remember who we were before Jake came into our lives. This will be my last update. Thank you all for your support throughout this nightmare. If my story helps even one person recognize these warning signs sooner, then sharing it was worth it.